Hello YouTube gearheads. Yeah, I started something, didn't I? So I'm gonna continue it, and I'm gonna try to be correct about some things, maybe correct some things I said. Thank you for all your comments. This is what the whole thing is about. Thinking about it, talking about it. Some people said, hey, I've never thought about it this way. So I'm going to try to illustrate some things a little bit more and take a lot of your comments into account. I've had a sleepless night, trust me. I upload a video where I say my opinion, state my opinion, and all of a sudden a shitstorm starts. Obviously, you know, some of that was predictable. Please, in your comments, be civil. This is a discussion among adults. There's no insulting each other, there's no insulting me. If you come straight out and be pissy about it because you think I approach you and I address you about stealing by using a Kemper, please, this is an open discussion and be civil. Let's just talk like adults and have a conversation about it. Immediately people came out and said, you have your opinion and you don't want to discuss it, and how can I possibly discuss it? In the very first comment, I was, being approached pissy that way. I'm here. This is a one-way thing. It is a video. This is not this is not bilateral. You know what I mean. This is me talking to you right now. So obviously I cannot answer every single comment. I tried as many times, but then I start repeating myself. So please go through the comments, see where I answered things. But I'll try to do this here. So, I remember I ended the last Kemper Is It Ethical video saying, don't buy a Kemper. I'm pretty sure that was wrong. Not because I want Kemper to make loads of money. I don't care. I don't know the guy. But that's not the point. First of all, many comments were about that the Kemper is great. That's not the point. That's not the point in any way. Obviously, if the thing sounds even close to the original amp that was profiled, it's a great concept. Just like the Pod is a great concept, or the XFX is a great concept. Anything that gives you a lot of sounds in one box, no matter the price, is a great concept for gigging musicians. Obviously, the benefits are very clear. Not lugging around a big amp, having your amp collection. The benefits are very clear. We're not bitching about the product's existence. We're not saying it's shitty, so therefore don't buy it. That is not the point. So, for the argument from now on, we're gonna agree that the idea to have a lot of sounds with you for one investment is good. We're gonna agree that carrying less weight is good. We're gonna agree that MIDI switchability of any sound you want is good. No question about this. I even want to say to, I think his name is Chris Kemper, should you be watching this, please, I'm not trying to offend you. I'm not trying to say what you created is a piece of shit, because it really isn't. It is an astounding piece of technology. What this box, what the Kemper Profiling amp, the KPA as it's called in short, can do is a marvelous achievement in technology. Okay? As far as I understand, using impulse responses to profile an amp and then being able to replicate that with any input you give it is absolutely phenomenal achievement in mathematics, in programming, in digital signal processing, DSP. The guy's a genius. Absolutely no questions about that, Chris. I never meant to diminish your achievement. In no way. Okay, so I want to say this. The guy, very, very cool programmer. He's, as far as I understand, he was behind a lot of the virus keyboards which are hailed as the best in the business. I myself used, totally forgot about that. I've been thinking about a lot of shit. I used the virus on the TC Electronic Power Core platform, and one of my very, very famous synthesizers. But I'm pretty sure when I used the virus on the TC Power Core that the programmers, let's say Chris, I think he was involved in that, got licensing from it. Okay, so TC didn't go and just program that, slap the name virus on there and make money without paying their dues. And this is what it's about. It's about paying dues to the people that do R&D. So before we go to that, that's a lot of shit to cover. So that's why I have a big ass cup of coffee. I am the guy on YouTube here that has done a lot of China pedals, a lot of Joyo, and I work for Joyo. Yes, no shit. I get paid by Joyo as a consultant, which means I tell them, no, that pedal should have a different color, and no, that knob should go further. No, this is the design, the name, marketing strategies. Yes, I need to live, and that's what I do. But I've been tasked by the boss of Joyo, because every time we talk about something, I very clearly tell them, no, 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 no. This is someone else's intellectual property, and I will never help you infringe on someone's intellectual property. I know this is something the Chinese do, and that is very clearly how Joyo came to be where they are. But I consider it my job to change that and to nudge them in the right direction and be more creative, put more money into R&D, research and development, and I've even been tasked by Jack to find engineers in Europe anywhere, DSP programmers, amp engineers, pedal engineers, so that Joyo can have their line of pedals that is not a clone of something else. Okay? So that's my job. My job is to change that kind of behavior because I am absolutely not for it. That said, I've been looking for a lot of analogies. A clone amp. I'm going to say some names and piss some people off who will probably never want to work with me, but you know what? If I want to do this right, I'm going to have to burn some bridges. Bugera. Bugera is very clearly making inexpensive versions of other people's designs. We know that. Bugera, Behringer, that's what it is. Joyo, very clearly. Many Chinese pretty much all do the same pedal. More. It's all, they all have an OCD. And the Ultimate Drive was mentioned. I can tell you very, very, very clearly that the Ultimate Drive is not an OCD. Might want to be one. Maybe that was what they cloned. I had an OCD here. There's a lot of comparison videos. I don't know how they do it, how they make them the same. An OCD is much tighter. An OCD is... I'm not cool with the Ultimate Drive. I gotta say this. It's a nice pedal for $30. But I always want the OCD. And this is... Da liegt der Hund begraben, we say in German. This is where the dog lies buried. I don't think that works in English. A Chinese clone of something, yeah, okay, more Javier Zulauf, blah blah blah, put blah blah. My guy at Meinl. Sorry. A Chinese clone in hardware. Clone. A Chinese clone in hardware. For all of us, is never going to be the real thing. Even though it might sound like the real thing. Forget about the sound. We're not talking about the sound. If I buy a Joyo pedal, I know I'm buying a knockoff. I'm buying a copy. And we know a photocopier is never going to do a real, exact 100% representation of the original, as the Chinese isn't doing. It's cheaper, it's manufactured cheaper, it's manufactured by people that might not care as much. And it is going to be a compromise between how much we are willing to pay and the quality and sound we're getting. Forget the sound, the quality we're getting. In the back of our minds, we always want the original. Anyone who's playing an Ultimate Drive knows it's a compromise and they really want an OCD. Anyone playing a Bugera actually really wants the Marshall or the PV or the whatever it is. We know that. So let's go back to music. I'm trying to find analogies. CD is great. CD is digital. Sounds cool. If I take a tape and I make a copy of that CD on a tape, yes, I give this to someone. I can buy the tape cheaper, whatever it is. I go to my friend. Remember tape? Tape? Cassettes. I put it on a cassette, but I always knew, in terms of quality, it wasn't the real deal. I wanted the CD. I had the cassette because I couldn't afford the CD. So I dealt with the compromise of reduced quality at a lower price by taking the cassette. The Chinese cloning market is pretty much the cassette of the gear world. We know it's not the real deal. If I can have a Bugera or I can have a Diesel. I can have a Bugera or I can have a Bogner. Bugera or Marshall, or whatever, not just Bugera, a Jet City. I can have a Jet City or an Engel. Or let's say Jet City or Soldano. Which one are you going to get? I give you both options. I give you the Jet City and the Soldano. It says designed by Mike Soldano and actual Soldano. Which one are you going to get? Your choice. Free of charge. You're going to get the fucking Soldano. Because this is what we really want. The Chinese market offers us similar sound at reduced price, but we know it's a knockoff. Now the Kemper is offering us, and we're saying that it is the same sound as the original, that's as it promises, and I'm not going to argue that. I have not had one here. If Chris Kemper, wants to have a conversation with me, hey, whatever, I'm not mad at the guy or whatever. I'd be really interested to have it here. I'll send it back, trust me. And check it out, because so far I've only heard it with headphones 3 times and I wasn't super impressed. But that's not a fair assessment of what the thing sounds like. I absolutely agree. And it's not about sound. I will give you that it sounds 100% exact. Let's just say that. The Kemper Profiling amp allows you to make a 100% accurate digital representation of a piece of hardware. Not a knockoff, not a cheaper designed version, not what the Chinese would do, not what, you take a Bogner Ecstasy and the Chinese have one for $800 and the Bogner Ecstasy is 4,000. No, not the Chinese knockoff where you always think, I want the Bogner. No, it's suggesting to you that if you can get a Bogner in your studio, or you can buy the Bogner profiled by someone who knows what they're doing and profiling it really well, that you have the real deal and you don't need it. So for someone owning a Kemper, that check mark is placed in their head. Check. I have the real deal. Because digital allows you to do this. Very, very ingenious technology, Chris. Absolutely. I give you this. So that is the difference between Chinese cloning and digitally profiling something to perfection. You make that check mark in your head, you're like, oh, I have that amp, thank you. When the Kemper came out, I was incredibly amazed by it. Watched videos, and I'm like, I'm gonna get this. I could profile all my amps and have it just right there, touch of a button. It's really no big difference for me, but still. But then I could have, my friend Frayette bring it in, profile that, and buy profile. And I was just as excited as anyone else about the possibility. But then the more you start thinking, first of all, when I checked it out, I was disappointed. So that's why I didn't further investigate. But now that I've been talking to amp manufacturers and how this technology hurt them, I started to think about the legalities of it. So, let's talk about, some of you wrote, well, there's an evolution. And obviously it's the new evolution, you can't stop it. Absolutely true in theory, so let's talk about the practicality. Someone even said Pro Tools, the same discussion that Pro Tools had when it came to Pro Tools versus tape. Well, yes. Well, in the beginning, the Pro Tools discussion was kind of, well, Pro Tools wasn't as good as tape because it was very new. Now, of course, everyone records digitally and it's fine. But Pro Tools didn't go and digitally model with impulse response an actually existing product. It was a new product that did something a different way. So Pro Tools didn't need the Otari tape machine. Do you understand that? It replaced it, but it wasn't dependent on it to work. If there was no real amp, the Kemper would be empty. The Kemper is highly dependent on real amps to be there, on real amps to continually be on the market, on real amps to exist. And as der echte Bolt said, whatever your name is, he said, well, the Kemper isn't going to destroy the real amp market because it's dependent on them. It's dependent on these amps to be there, so these amps will always be there. What you're forgetting, dude, is they will only be there if people buy them. Now, amp manufacturers don't manufacture amps just for the shits and giggles of it. Actually, some do. I've talked to some, and they're gearheads. They love what they do. They love tinkering with amps. One of them told me, in the middle of the night, he has an idea about a new circuit, and he goes down to the workshop and fiddles around, and it's very quiet, and he can hear all the details. They're nuts about this stuff. Okay? Now, but they also, in order to be able to do this job, they need to have money. So they need to sell the products. So just out of charity, they can't go and have a company and sell amps and then say, well, just profile away. I was just happy to deliver you a new design. For these new designs to exist, they need to make money. For new music, to take the music analogy, for new music to exist, bands need to be paid. Okay? Because guitars, amps need to be bought, lessons need to be paid for, time needs to be there so we can practice and work on songs, studio time. There's a whole bunch of things that cost money. So without being paid for music, we don't have the freedom to do it right. And that is what a lot of people don't understand. Without the amps being sold, a manufacturer doesn't have the freedom to do it right. Okay? It costs money to do this. So there will only be new amps if amp manufacturers can sell them. You can only sell them if there's a market. If you can get 100% digital representation in a Kemper, there isn't as big of a market. And yes, I have talked directly, and please do not argue with me on this level. Because you guys have the audacity to write, I'm sorry, whoever you guys are, I'm not speaking to all of you, all the amp manufacturers are doing fine. Well, really? Have you talked to them? Because I do. I'm kind of peeking behind the curtain, and I get the stories. Those are real people with real families that are making very little money. I mean, very little money. An amp that you might spend $4,000 on might get them $400-500, maybe. And how many do they sell a month? Of a $4,000 amp, how many do they sell a month? Very few. Now, if you need 4 or 5 people in a small company to get these amps out, how many do you have to sell at $400-500 an amp to send these people home so they can support their kids, dogs, cats, ferrets, families, you know? So you might think, oh, Marshall, we're not hurting Marshall if we're copying stuff. You might not. You might. Maybe Marshall has to go from 300 employees down to 200. Maybe a company with 10 has to go down to 4. So don't shit yourself thinking you're not hurting real people. You're hurting real people like you and me. Because someone putting together an amp is a craftsman, just like the carpenter, just like the painter. And if someone took your job away from you or told you that you're not getting paid for what you just did, you'd be seriously pissed. Okay? So please, let's not have that argument. They're real people with real stories that are being heard. So, again, not Mr. Kemper's fault. Not saying that. Not even the product's fault. It is the problem of how we deal with it. Now, if you go and you have a Kemper and you profile all your amps so that you can have them with you, as someone stated on Facebook, I love to have all my vintage amps with me and know that they're safe and it's more dependable. Hey, that's great. An amazing tool for that. Thank you, Chris. Killer. Chris Kemper, thank you. If Nico Schliemann goes and plays with Glasperlenspiel, those are German words. Nico Schliemann, Glasperlenspiel, that's where he plays. And he, has some amps at home and doesn't want to take them with him, and it's easier, fine. Absolutely cool. If the sounds that come in the Kemper have been discussed with those companies that made the amps so that the Kemper could have the sounds in the first place. Because remember, the Kemper cannot create a sound by itself. It needs an amp to be there so that it can be copied. And if those companies have been contacted, like apparently Line 6 did in the early days, talking to manufacturers saying, is it okay if we do this, if we work towards your sound, program something that sounds like it, call it that. You know, they were cool about it apparently, as far as I heard. Then that wouldn't be a problem. Just like, hey, I have an Apollo over there. I've said this before. I have both Marshalls, I have the Plexi and the 2203, the JCM 800. I have the Friedman amps from Brainworks. They're nice emulations. And those companies, when I buy the plugin, get paid. Yes, Brainworks, the programming company, the nerds, the number nerds, they go to companies and say, let's work together, and when we sell the plugin, we give you a cut. Because you've done your work, we do our work, we sell it digitally, and we give you a cut. I got no problem with that. I use these. They're nice. Absolutely nice. I'm sure Friedman and Marshall have no problem with these plugins being sold because they're getting a cut. It might even open up a market to people that wouldn't buy a Friedman or a Marshall, producers that want to have it on their laptops, you know? So apps, all fine. But what the Kemper did is, we were in a very special, in a very unique situation. Oh no, wait. Going back to designing evolution, I'm sorry. This is where we have to, this is a big topic. I'm sorry, but we need to talk about it. And you always have a choice, excuse me, to just turn this video off. Always. You don't have to listen to me. People said, probably with a good reasoning, yes, but isn't every amp built on the shoulders of another? Aren't they all just basically Fenders and Marshalls? Let's say that. Because they were among the first amps out there, or Hi-Watts, or Vox. Isn't everything based on those? Of course, Black Stars are Voxes and Marshalls. Tweaked. I don't know what a Dietzel is. It's probably built on something. But then they did their own tweaks. And then Bogner said, I want a Marshall channel, I want a Fender channel. And he took those ideas and developed them. Yes, that is evolution. That is looking at other people's designs and developing it further. Yes, without paying them. But it's development. It's Mercedes looks at BMW and learn from each other. That is the normal way that the market works and that technology works. And it evolves and moves on. Innovation, absolutely fine. The Kemper didn't do that. The Kemper Profiling amp didn't, there's no amp in there. That's a computer with a piece of software, with a very fast processor to give you almost no latency. So this amp didn't build on other amp designs. It does nothing of the sort. It still needs the actual physical valve amp, tube amplifier, to exist so that it can be copied. So there is a difference. There is a difference of saying, I'm building my amp based on something else. Friedman, Marshalls weren't the same quality anymore. Marshall couldn't deliver. Of course, we're going to start a shitstorm with this, but let's just say this is what it was. Marshall couldn't deliver anymore what people wanted from Marshall, and Friedman said, I'm going to build an amp that is based on the idea of a Marshall, but pretty much already modded, and I do it well. And people respond to that. We can argue whether he cloned it or not, whether he cloned it and improved it. It's all that, but it's all based on something that came before. The Kemper doesn't do it. The Kemper needs the Friedman to be there. You understand the difference, okay? So let's go into, I'm thinking I've covered almost everything. The main issue. We are in a time where we have a very, very specific problem. The problem of being able to exactly clone something in a digital way from someone else that has built it. Now we've talked about intellectual property of a sound. That's extremely difficult. Don't think that a sound, I mean, legally, we could never take a sound and say, that's intellectual property. I'll get to that in a minute again. Let's say we take a JCM 800, okay? I profile it, and then I say, okay, I give credit to Marshall. I pay Marshall a royalty. So if Kemper sells it with a Marshall sound, Marshall gets a couple cents, a couple dollars, whatever, however many sounds are in there, minus, there's a way to figure this out, whatever a percentage would be. That's okay. But what if I sell a sound that is a Marshall, and actually Kemper, I profile, I don't know if this works, a Marshall with an electro-harmonics pedal and a tube screamer. So how much of that sound is electro-harmonics, how much is the tube screamer, and how much is the speaker, how much is the mic? Don't you have to then go and give Sennheiser, Shure, or Roya also a cut because the mic also influences that sound? What cab did I use? So this is extremely difficult to do it this way. It gets easier when it's just a Marshall with a Marshall speaker. Okay, much easier, but you can see where we get into trouble. Let me explain to you what I think the rub is, what I think the problem is. Let's take CDs again. I think you would all agree. By the way, thank you. Most of you, about probably 95%, agreed that buying an amp, profiling it, and sending it back is asshattish. It's just not right. Most of you could clearly see that this is asshole behavior. So thank you for that. So we already are in agreement on some points. One point. Let's say I buy a CD. If I copied that and gave 3 or 4 copies to my friends, the music industry didn't hurt from that. It's not the nicest thing to do. They should buy it themselves, support the artist. But okay, it didn't kill the music industry. It didn't hurt a lot of people. It didn't hurt the labels too much. That was common practice. And by the most, among 3, 4, 5 people, you at least still sold a CD. It's not perfect, but that was okay. Now, then MP3s and downloadable media started to happen. So what happened is I buy one CD, make a high quality MP3 or even WAV of it, put it on the internet, and 5 million people can download it based on the one purchase. Now there's a problem. We know that now it is illegal. Because you do not have the right to share someone else's ideas and music. You're only buying a license to listen to it yourself and your friends, whatever, let's say, whatever. You don't even have the right to just play it to a group of several thousand people without paying royalties. You know that, right? You can't do that. So we know it's illegal to rip that CD and put it on the internet for free. You know it's highly illegal. I mean, highly illegal to rip that CD, put it on the internet, and ask money for it. Because it's not your property. You understand that? Those MP3s are not your property. You can listen to them. You're not allowed to share. And you're definitely not allowed to sell it. That is piracy. You're not allowed to do that to a movie. They will put you in jail for that. You're not allowed to rip a movie and sell it for profit online or on DVDs and ask money for something that doesn't belong to you. So we're in agreement on that, right? Are we? Please tell me that we're in agreement that this is illegal. The law has declared this to be illegal. Now, I'm a company doing profiles for the Kemper. I buy the amps. Okay, I like the CD. Maybe I borrow the amps. But let's say I'm cool. Let's say I'm a cool company. I have a studio. I buy the amps. Don't resell them. I buy the amps and keep the amps for reasons we don't know. I profile it. And then I sell it online as a profile pack for the Kemper. Tell me the difference. Someone created this amp, poured their heart and soul into it to create a unique sound, a unique circuitry, based on older circuitry, okay. And these companies buy these amps. Okay, so one has been bought, like the CD, make a pack of sounds, and sell it for profit without paying due or paying a royalty or cut percentage to the amp manufacturer. You see what I'm trying to get at? This is the profiler is not the problem. The profiler is only enabling people to do exactly that. Universal Audio is selling plugins, but they're paying the manufacturer of the original amp. Even though for that, the amp isn't as necessary, not as necessary. Well, for the Marshalls, they actually had the Marshalls there. So yes, it is necessary. But it's done with the companies. Now, how is it different? How is buying an amp, being a profiling company that does this, offering sounds, buying these products and selling the profiles for a profit and not giving the manufacturer a cut? You're distributing their sound so anyone can have it, but you're not sharing the profits, at least a small percentage. Technically, it should be completely illegal to do it because it's illegal with the CD. If I buy the new Metallica album, rip it, sell the MP3s or waves for profit, I can tell Metallica is all I want about, here you're gonna get a cut. They're gonna put me in jail anyway. So, but the least that should happen is that these companies get a cut. Could we agree on that? That would be a fair way to do it. We already agree that buying an amp, selling it back after profiling is asinine, okay? Cool. Not cool. I mean, yeah, not cool to the companies. Cool that we agree. So, why can we possibly agree that these companies, after the amp has been profiled, should be involved in some financial way? Now, isn't free sharing of profiles that you have created yourself on forums and message boards exactly the same as sharing MP3s from bands online, which is absolutely illegal? You understand that it's illegal. So how is sharing a profile from an amp legal? The only problem that we have in this industry right now, and the Kemper has put us in front of this problem right now, is that it allowed us to recreate, profile an amp 100% in a digital format so it can be traded. The only problem is that the law is not going to take this into their own hands. The German lawmakers are not going to be interested in one little company creating the amp. And why go after Chris Kemper? It's not his fault that this is a part, maybe partially. I think he has a forum or where people can trade the sounds. We might fault him for that a little bit, but I'm not going to say he maliciously did that. No one's going to be interested in the problems of a very, very, very small industry. If we're talking about maybe 30, 40 amp manufacturers around the world that are seriously affected by this, this isn't big enough of a problem for any lawmaker to act on it. What I want to do is I want to make you guys think about this, and I want to make you guys act responsibly. All I'm doing is I'm begging you, act responsibly with your profiles. Maybe don't put them online, maybe don't share them. Maybe share them with your friend or two who also have a Kemper. Okay. So it can go from Kemper to Kemper, from friend to friend. The online thing is what explodes it out of proportion. Share it like you would have shared a burnt CD, not like you share an MP3. I'm not trying to halt or stop progress, but I want to defend the people that make the amplifiers because the Kemper needs them. If you have a Kemper and you want cool amps, then you need people like Reinhold Bogner and Peter Dietzel and Mr. Engel and Mr. Hughes and Mr. Kettner and Jim Marshall, who's not there anymore, David Friedman. You need those people to create Mr. Gurus, from Italy. Here you go. You need those guys, because otherwise your Kemper is worthless. So, as a Kemper user, think about future food for your Kemper. If you want that food to be there, to get new profiles, you can't be part of the problem. You can't be part of the crowd that seriously puts a dent in those companies' businesses and makes them go under. I know I forgot something. I don't know anymore. This is a huge topic, but let's please not discuss whether the Kemper sounds good or not. It's really not an issue. It really isn't. Let's please not discuss if it's practical. Of course it is. Here's the last issue. This is something that is going to piss some of you off. Saying, yeah, but I cannot afford an expensive amp is not an argument. Saying, but I want it for cheap is never an argument. I know you want the new Metallica album. What do? You don't have the $10. $10, come on. So you steal it by downloading it for free. Yeah, but I want it. Well, you know what? Back in the days, I'm sorry, but we bought 1 or 2 CDs a month and we cherished them. We listened to them up and down and up and down, and we had the music we could afford, and that music meant the world to us. Now we have everything and we listen to 2 songs of the album. Fine. Okay. You know what? I want a big-ass Mercedes. I can't have it. I want it badly. But that doesn't mean that I steal it. Okay? It doesn't. Now, what do you think if I could have my little Honda that I have? Honda Jazz. And there was a machine that could morph it into any car that I can rent. So I drive up in a Ferrari one day, and 10 minutes later, my Honda is a Ferrari. And the other week, I buy a big-ass, SUV from Mercedes. I rent it, test drive it, and all of a sudden, my car can be a Mercedes. Now, what do you think that would do to Ferrari and Mercedes? How long do you think those companies would be around? Understand? If I can't afford what I want, then I cannot have it. I understand the Kemper allows you to have something you always wanted for a reasonable price. Once you have the Kemper, you can have all these amps. I understand that. I understand that it's tempting. I understand that you want it. But simply saying, yeah, but you're an idiot because I can't afford a diesel, so I'm going to do it. I can't afford it, so I'm going to steal it is not. Let's not say steal it. I can't afford it, so I'm going to profile it without paying dues to the people that actually made the thing I profiled. Long sentence. That's not an argument. You understand that? That is not saying I want it badly and I don't have the money. It's not an argument. If you want it badly, but you don't have the money, you're going to have to buy a copy. Okay? Kemper tells you you can have the real thing for free or for whatever the profile costs. If you want a Mesa sound, buy a clone. Mesa knows it's not the real deal. You know it's not the real deal. It might come close. Everything is fine. You're pissing off Mesa a little bit, but you're not going to kill it as much as buying the profile on a Kemper. So just saying, but I want it and I can't afford it. So some people said, yeah, get off your high horse with your tube amps and your all tube and all tube. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that over there? No, probably not. No, right there. I got a rack full of pods. Pod 2 in the rack. Pod XT, bass pod. Back in the day, I played all these modelers. Obviously, they weren't as good as the modelers today. And I would play a Kemper. Why not? But I would like to do it responsibly. I would like to deal with the profiles responsibly. If it gives me a great sound, I don't care where the sound comes from. Doesn't have to be a tube amp. I play the Marshall plugins. Sound killer, they're fun. I don't have a Marshall, but I know that when I buy the plugin, I'm paying Marshall a licensing fee, okay? So then someone, I mean, please just don't be idiots. Don't be idiots. And someone said, this guy's just an asshole. He didn't get a Kemper endorsement, so now he's trying to, trash him. I never even talked to Kemper. I thought about it several times. After I heard it, I wasn't so interested. Now I'm more interested because I would like to hear what the fuss is about. But beside the point, I'm not some guy who's just pissed off at Chris Kemper because he didn't give me an endorsement. I never asked. Someone said, he's just jealous because he can't program something like that himself. Of course I can't. I'm not a math computer genius. He is. I'm someone who wants to protect the rights of the people that come up with shit. I've done a lot of music. I've produced a lot of albums, and they never made me a lot of money because I was always, and they were highly coveted. People wanted them. The magazines around the world said, Henning, your stuff is hot shit, but it was right at the point where the music industry was going in the crapper. So yes, I'm very pissed off about music downloading, and I'm very conscious about the people behind this whole issue that suffer. My girlfriend was like, she's so cute, Leslie's so fucking cute. She was like, well, but doesn't Bon Jovi just go up there and play and he's just naturally talented? That doesn't take work. He just does that. Like, it takes, I mean, what I do, yes, I need to get paid for what I do when I make music. Because I have to buy a guitar, I have to buy an amp. That's an investment. I have to buy mics, computers, software. I have to spend years learning the software, learning how to record. I have to spend thousands and thousands in lessons. Thousands or hundreds of thousands of hours in practicing. And all this time is worth money. So if I don't get paid for my music, then I don't have time to make it. I don't have time to practice. I don't have time to learn all these skills. Who thinks that people come home after working an 8-hour shift at the mill and then sit there for an hour writing the perfect song, playing it beautifully? You know, those people exist, but it's rare. I mean, most people have to work on this very, very hard and then spend thousands or hundreds of thousands in studio time to create a really good album. And you know what? All this needs to be paid for. And it is being paid for when you buy the album. And same thing with any product. It's not just the material you pay for. It is the sweat and the tears that people put in. And please, when you want something for free, think about the people making it. Whether they are Chinese people at the Joyo factory or people at Kemper, they also want to make money. This product also took a lot of work to do. Absolutely. He also wants to make his money, so I appeal to Chris Kemper to, he's just in the same boat as the amp manufacturers. If someone could Kemper a Kemper, you know what I mean? Then he would be like, what the fuck? You know, if someone just did software versions of the virus, if that's his, I think that's his thing, and never paid him for it, he'd be seriously pissed off. I hope this was long, I'm sorry, but this is what plagued me for a day and a half now. You know what? I'm not going to comment on any of the comments that come in here. It is extremely time intensive. I have loads of videos to do for you guys, more enjoyable than this ethics discussion. And please, just not get into Marx and Lenin or whatever. This is not what it's about. It's just about, you know what it's about. So I'm gonna refrain from commenting on anything. I'm gonna read your comments. I'll think about them. But you please talk amongst yourselves. Okay? Coffee talk. Thanks for watching. Thanks for staying so long with me. Thanks to all the amp manufacturers that make great products. And please, Chris Kemper, don't be mad at me. I'm not criticizing the product you made. I'm just asking for responsible treatment of what it allows us to do, of the digital media that the Kemper can provide. Let's please be responsible with it. How about that?